Jim Morrison en Aldous Huxley hebben één ding gemeen: William Blake. In de film van The Origin Story van The Doors ontleent Jim Morrison zijn inspiratie uit een gedicht. En in het gedicht wordt genoemd: If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. En Aldous Huxley schreef een boek, The Doors of Perception, een beetje onder invloed, maar ook onder inspiratie van William Blake. En dat proza gedicht is het volgende. Dat zijn 3 actes en dat heet A Memorable Fancy. The prophets Isaiah and Ezekiel dined with me, and I asked them how they dared so roundly to assert that God spoke to them, and whether they did not think at the time that they would be misunderstood, and so be the cause of imposition. Isaiah answered, I did not saw God, nor heard any, in a finite organical perception, but my senses discovered the infinite in everything. And as I was then persuaded and remain confirmed that the voice of honest indignation is the voice of God, I cared not for consequences, but wrote. Then I asked, does a firm persuasion that a thing is so make it so? He replied, all poets believe that it does, and in ages of imagination this firm persuasion removed mountains, but many are not capable of a firm persuasion of anything. Then Ezekiel said, the philosophy of the East thought the first principles of human perception. Some nations held one principle for the origin and some another. We of Israel thought that the poetic genius, as you now call it, was the first principle, and all the others were merely derivative, which was the cause of our despising the priests and philosophers of other countries, and prophesying that all gods would at least be proved to originate in ours. And to be the tributaries of the poetic genius, it was this that our great poet, King David, desired so fervently and invoked so pathetically, saying, by this he conquers enemies and governs kingdoms. And we so loved our God that we cursed in his name all the deities of surrounding nations, and asserted that they had rebelled. From these opinions, the vulgar came to think that all nations would at last be subject to the Jews. This, said he, like all firm persuasions, is come to pass. For all nations believe the Jews' code and worship the Jews' God. And what greater subjection can be? I heard this with some wonder, and must confess my own conviction. After dinner, I asked Isaiah to favor the world with his last works. He said none of equal value was lost. Ezekiel said the same thing. I also asked Isaiah what made him so go naked and barefoot for 3 years. He answered, the same that made our friend Diogenes the Grecian. I then asked Ezekiel why he eat dung and lay so long on his right and left side. He answered, the desire of raising other men into the perception of the infinite. This the North American tribes practice. And is he honest who resists his genius of conscience only for the sake of present ease or gratification? The ancient tradition that the world will be consumed in fire at the end of 6,000 years is true, as I have heard from hell. from the cherub with his flaming sword is hereby commanded to leave his guard at the tree of life. And when he does, the whole creation will be consumed and appear infinite and holy, whereas it now appears finite and corrupt. This will come to pass by an improvement of the sensual enjoyment. But first the notion that man has a body distinct from his soul is to be expunged. This I shall do by printing in the infernal method, by corrosiveness, which in hell are salutary and medicinal, melting apparent surfaces away, and displaying the infinite which was hid. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern. Deel 1 was dat. Deel 2. I was in a printing house of hell and saw the method in which knowledge is transmitted from generation to generation. In the first chamber was a dragon man, clearing away the rubbish from a cave's mouth. Within, a number of dragons were hollowing the cave. In the second chamber was a viper, folding round the rock and the cave, and others adorning it with gold, silver, and precious stones. In the third chamber was an eagle with wings and feathers of air. He caused the inside of the cave to be infinite. Around were numbers of eagle-like men who built palaces in the immense cliffs. In the fourth chamber were lions and flaming fire, raging around and melting the metals into living fluids. In the fifth chamber were unnamed forms, which cast the metals into the expanse. There they were received by man, and who occupied the sixth chamber, and took the forms of books, and were arranged in libraries. The giants who formed this world into its sensual existence, and now seem to live in its chains, are in truth the causes of its life and the source of all activity, but the change are the cunning of weak and tame minds which have power to resist energy. According to the proverb, the weak in courage is strong in cunning. Thus, one portion of being is the prolific, the other the devouring. To the devourer, it seems as if the producer was in his change. But it is not so. He only takes portions of existence into fancies that the whole, but the prolific would cease to be prolific unless the devourer, as a sea, received the excess of his delights. Some will say, is not God alone the prolific? I answer, God only knows, acts, and is in existing beings or man. These two classes of men are always upon earth, and they should be enemies. Whoever tries to reconcile them seeks to destroy existence. Religion is an endeavor to reconcile the two. Note, Jesus Christ did not wish to unite but to separate them, as in the parable of sheep and goats. He says, I came not to send peace but a sword. Messiah or Satan or tempter was formerly thought to be one of the antediluvians, who are our energies. Deel 3. Part 3. An angel came to me and said, O pitiful, foolish young man, O horrible, O dreadful state, consider the hot burning dungeon thou art preparing for thyself to all eternity, to which thou art going in such career. I said, perhaps you will be willing to shew me my eternal lot, and will contemplate together upon it, and see whether your lot or mine is most desirable. So he took me through the stables, and through a church, and down into the church vault, at the end of which was a mill. Through the mill we went, and came to a cave. Down the winding cavern we groped our tedious way till a void boundless as a nether sky appeared beneath us, and we held by the roots of trees and hung over this immensity. But I said, if you please, we will commit ourselves to this void, and see whether providence is here also. If you will not, I will. But he answered, do not presume, O young man, but as we were here, remain, behold thy lot, which will soon appear when the darkness passes away. So I remained with him, sitting in the twisted roots of an oak. He was suspended in a fungus, which hung with the head downward into the deep. By degrees we beheld the infinite abyss, fiery as the smoke of a burning city. Beneath us, at an immense distance, was the sun, black but shining. Round it were fiery tracks on which resolved vast spiders crawling after their prey, which flew, or rather swam, in the infinite deep, in the most terrific shapes of animals sprung from corruption, and air was full of them and seemed composed of them. These are devils, and are called powers by I now asked my companion which was my eternal lot. He said, between the black and white spiders. But now, from between the black and white spiders, a cloud and fire burst and rolled through the deep, blackening all beneath, so that the nether deep grew black as a sea and rolled with a terrible noise. Beneath us was nothing now to be seen but a black tempest, till, looking east between the clouds and the waves, we saw a cataract of blood mixed with fire, and not many stones through from us appeared and sunk again the scaly fold of a monstrous serpent. At last, to the east, distant about 3 degrees, appeared a fiery crest above the waves. Slowly it reared like a ridge of golden rocks, till we discovered 2 globes of crimson fire, from which the sea fled away in clouds of smoke. And now we saw it. It was the head of the Leviathan. His forehead was divided into streaks of green and purple, like those of a tiger's forehead. Soon we saw his mouth, and red gills hang just above the raging foam, tinging the black deep with beams of blood, advancing towards us with all fury of a spiritual existence. My friend, the angel, climbed upon from his station into the mill. I remained alone, and then his appearance was no more. But I found myself sitting on a pleasant bank beside a river by moonlight, hearing a harper who sang to the harp. His theme was, the man who never alters his opinion is like standing water and breeds reptiles of the mind. But I arose and sought for the mill and there I found my angel, who surprised asked me how I escaped. I answered, all that we saw was owing to your metaphysics, for then you ran away. I found myself on a bank by moonlight, hearing a harper. But now we have seen my eternal lot, shall I shew you yours? He laughed at my proposal, but I by force suddenly caught him in my arms, and flew restlessly through the night till we were elevated above the earth in shadow. Then I flung myself with him directly into the body of the sun. Here I clothed myself in white, and taking in my hand Swedenborg's volume sunk from the glorious climb, and passed all the planets till we came to Saturn. Here I sat to rest, and then leaped into the void between Saturn and the fixed stars. Here, said I, is your lot in this space, if space it may be called. Soon we saw the stable and the church, and I took him to the altar and opened the Bible, and lo, it was a deep pit, into which I descended, driving the angel before me. Soon we saw 7 houses of brick. Once we entered in, it were a number of monkeys, baboons, and all that species, chained by the middle, grinning and snatching at one another, but withheld by the shortness of their change. However, I saw that they sometimes grew numerous, and then the weak were caught by the strong, and with a grinning aspect first coupled with a then devoured, by plucking off first one limb and then another, till the body was left a helpless trunk. This, after grinning and kissing it with seeming fondness, they devoured it too, and here and there I saw one savourily picking the flesh of his own tail. As the stench terribly annoyed us both, we went into the mill, and in my hand brought the skeleton of a body, which was in the mill, was Aristotle's Analytics. So the angel said, thy fantasy has imposed upon me, and thou oughtest to be ashamed. I answered, we impose one another, and it is but last time to converse with you, whose works are only analytics. I have always found that angels have the vanity to speak of themselves as the only wise. This they do with a confident insolence sprouting from systematic reasoning. Thus, Swedenborg boasts that what he writes is new, though it is only the contents of or index of already published books. A man carried a monkey about for a shoe, and because he was a little wiser than the monkey, grew vain, and conceived himself as much wiser than 7 men. It is so with Swedenborg. He eschews the folly of churches and exposes hypocrites till the images that all are religious, and himself the single one on earth that ever broke a net. Now here a plain fact. Swedenborg has not written one new truth. Now here another. He has written all the old falsehoods, and now here the reason. He conversed with angels, who are all religious, and conversed not with devils, who all hate religion, for he was incapable through his conceited notions. Thus, Swedenborg's writings are a recapitulation of the superficial opinions and an analysis of the more sublime, but no further. Have now another plain fact. Any man of mechanical talents may, from the writings of Berzelius or Jacob Behmen, produce 10,000 volumes of equal value with Swedenborg's, and from those of Dante or Shakespeare an infinite number. But when he has done this, let him not say that he knows better than his master, for he only holds a candle in sunshine. Once I saw a devil in a flame of fire, who arose before an angel that sat on a cloud, and the devil uttered these words: "The worship of God is honoring his gifts in other men, each according to his genius, and loving the greatest man best. Those who envy or calumniate the great man hate God, for there is no other God." The angel, hearing this, became almost blue, but mastering himself, he grew yellow, and at last white, pink, and smiling, and then replied, "Thou idolater, is not God one? And is he not visible in Jesus Christ? And has not Jesus Christ given his sanction to the law of 10 commandments? And are not all other men fools, sinners, and nothings?" The devil answered, "Bray a fool in a mortar with weed, yet shall not his folly be beaten out of him. If Jesus Christ is the greatest man, you ought to love him in the greatest degree. Now hear how he has given his sanction to the law of 10 commandments. Did he not mock at the Sabbath, and so mock the Sabbath's God, murder those who were murdered because of him, turn away the law from the woman taken in adultery, steal the labor of others, support him, bear false witness when he omitted making a defense before Pilate, covert when he prayed for his disciples, and when he bid them shake off the dust of their feet against such as refuse to lodge them. I tell you, no virtue can exist without breaking these 10 commandments. Jesus was all virtue, and acted upon impulse, not from rules." When he had so spoken, I beheld the angel, who stretched out his arms, embracing the flames of fire, and he was consumed and arose as Elijah. Note, this angel, who is now become a devil, is my particular friend. We often read the Bible together in its infernal or diabolical sense, which the world shall have if they behave well. I have also the Bible of hell, which the world shall have whether they will or no. One law for the lion and ox is oppression. Dankjewel.